Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Renaissance Center chat. This is Dr. Carla Debnam, the Executive Director of the Renaissance Center, and I would like to welcome you to this evening's chat. We are going to be discussing our caring and sharing, um, not caring and sharing, sorry. It is, caregivers, caring for our caregivers. And so with that being said, I'd like our guests to come on even now, caring for caregivers. Hello, everyone. Well, I welcome you all to our RC chat. This evening, we'll be talking about caring for caregivers and this topic and information that interests all of us because at some point in time, we are either going to be caregivers, we are caregivers, or we will be supporting those who are caregivers. So some of us in the audience have had each of these responsibilities. And so we want to make sure we're all equipped. So I have two extra special guests, and they are going to get us started. Again, this is Dr. Carla Debnam, and I'd like to start with Sharon Powdrill, who's going to introduce herself, followed by Theodore Peters.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? So, my background is in social work, and I work with the vulnerable population for a state agency in guardianship. And with regarding to guardianship, um, it is when individuals have been deemed incompetent and they're unable to make decisions on their own, whereby we become caregivers for these individuals who are in guardianship. So we're basically like family to them, and we give informed consent and we make decisions on their behalf. And also, when doing so, we report the information to the court. We have individuals that we have to um, give reports to, which is the court, the judge. We have to go and speak with our attorneys on behalf of our clients. And we're guardians of person. We don't handle the money. However, as a caregiver for these individuals, they do have guardians of property. So there's two different distinctions with regarding to that. So I have been tasked this evening with regarding to just assisting, and hopefully this will help you individuals out there who are caregivers. And so, what are the signs of caregiver stress? And there are four of them.
So we're gonna let Ms. Peters introduce
Okay.
herself. Then we'll
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
come
Sure.
right in. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Theodore Peters, and I retired about 2 years ago from Hopkins Elder Plus PACE program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. And in that role, I did the marketing and outreach to family caregivers or to caregivers who needed help with keeping their loved ones at home. It is a comprehensive and all-inclusive program that where I worked on an interdisciplinary team where we used a team approach to not only providing care for our participants, but a lot of support for their caregivers. So that's where I really got interested in seeing how I could be better prepared to help the families that were coming to my office who were just overwhelmed, um, stressed, and needed some assistance and resources. And so I started getting additional training and providing classes for caregivers, like my teacher, Powerful Tools for Caregivers. That's like it's a 6-week evidence-based course that where we focus only on the caregivers, not the people they're caring for. And since I retired, I continue to do that. There are a number, there's lots of resources out here available, and I'm sure we'll be addressing some in a minute, but just wanted to thank you all and for having me and look forward to this discussion.
All right. Now, Sharon, we want you back on. What are the signs of caregiver stress? Because sometimes we are stressed out and don't know
Mhm.
it.
Absolutely. So the signs of caregiver stress, I have four of them, and I have them as PECC. And the first one, acronym for P, is for physical exhaustion. Sometimes individuals become tired a good majority of the time, or they have challenges with sleeping. Um, the E is emotional exhaustion. Individuals, sometimes as a caregiver, they feel overwhelmed. They feel as if they're not getting the support from family members. And they believe at times that they're in this all by themselves. Sometimes, if you are a caregiver and you have other siblings, usually it's that one individual that's basically doing all of the tasks by taking mom, dad, aunt, or whoever to the physicians for their doctor's appointments, take them to the grocery store, so on and so forth. So that can cause an emotional exhaustion. The C, changing in eating habits. As a caregiver, you might notice their eating habits are different. You get so busy, caring for the individuals, you yourself may have forgotten to eat. You may feel as if you're not hungry. And in doing so, either you're going to lose weight, or if you do eat, you're going to probably not eat so healthy. You're going to probably eat a lot of snacks or whatever, which may cause you to gain weight. The other acronym for the signs of caregiver stress, the last one is C, is self care. And the individuals are not taking care of their own personal needs. They may skip their own medical appointments. They may skip their own personal hygiene. And sometimes, what I've noticed with regarding to some caregivers, we would visit them and we would find out that they would wear the same clothes. They would have the same clothes on Monday and Tuesday. They may skip Wednesday. Come Thursday and Friday, they may have the same clothes on again. So, those are a few of the signs for the caregiver stress with regarding to the physical aspect of it. The other question before us is, how can we caregivers prioritize their mental and
Yeah,
their
we alternate. Yeah, that's okay. Sorry about that. Yep. So, Ms. Peters, do you have any other signs of caregiver stress?
Times they become really irritable. They get sick. They cry very easily. A lot of times when people would come into my office, there were lots of tears shed. Once they found that they were in a safe space and they could really, really share emotionally what they were going through. Um, and a lot of them, they lose hope. They can't concentrate. Um, they get frustrated and they, just throw up their hands. Look, I'm tired. I don't care about this anymore. They get headaches. They complaints of, muscle tension and high blood pressure and resentfulness. They sometimes get really resentful about being the responsible person, one person, when there are probably six people who could help, being left with all the caregiver needs. And so, some of the other things that they discussed with me at that time, while some of these warning signs as I mentioned, but they will also explain some of the sources of the stress. And I'd like to share that with our audience tonight. You know, they complain about having too much to do, or having to listen to their loved one repeat questions, the same question over and over again, or asking the same question over and over again, or their own feeling of inadequacy, like, you know, I'm trying to take care of my loved one, but am I the best person to do it? You know, can I take care of them the way they really need to be taken care of? And then I think for, you know, some of the couples I've listened to, especially those who've been married for long periods of times, you know, when their loved ones start talking about they want to go home, then they know that they're talking about that transitional phase in their life, which is a little overwhelming for, you know, the care giver, as well as these family disagreements. Trying to get the family all on board, trying to get the help that you need, you know, not being confrontational, learning how to have these conversations so that you can get the help and support that you need. And that's one of the things that I found, even in our caregiver classes, are, you know, the number of caregivers who come in here, they're angry, they're mad, they're disgusted, they're frustrated, and then sharing with them some tools that they can use to help them during this stressful period and their caregiving demands, and them using those tools and seeing them change, seeing how using the tools that we give them really help, and then listening to them share from week to week how it really helps them to make them feel better. And like also agree with, you know, lack of sleep is another one that creates a lot of caregiver stress. But there are tools that we can share with caregivers to help them so they can identify ways that they can get the rest that they need. But a lot of people don't know that these things are available to them. And then lots of free programs through Baltimore City Health Department, caregiver program, through the Department of Aging, where we host these classes. They're free to help caregivers address these things that we're talking about tonight.
Thank you, ladies. This is an important topic. Again, we started out saying that either you're going to be a caregiver, you are one, or uh, have been one in the past for family, friends, or even people in the community that we've had relationships with who asked us to help them in their time of need. And if anyone in the audience has any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and they'll get them to us so that we can address your concerns because we're here for you. So if any of the viewers have any questions, let us know. And we heard about all of the stressors that could take place in a caregiver's life. And so we're going to now discuss, like Ms. Peters said, there are solutions. And so, Sharon, we're going to hear from you about some of those solutions and then back to Ms. Peters.
Okay. So, with regarding to how can caregivers prioritize their mental and physical health, um, one of the things is that for to prioritize your physical health is getting regular exercise, perhaps going for a walk, even just if it's nothing down to the corner of your street and back. There are also exercises and yoga on YouTube that you can do online in the convenience of your own home. So you don't have to go, leave your home. But if you're able to, just go for a walk, and you know what, sometimes you might need to leave the home just to give you a different type of environment so that you can get out and you can have fresh air. Um, and it's important throughout the day to stay active as possible, if at all possible. The other thing too is that it's important to have a balanced diet. You want to make sure that you're eating. Perhaps if you can prepare meals ahead of time, or maybe if you can freeze them, and then that way you don't have to worry about cooking. You could just go to the freezer. You can just pull out a meal and microwave it or prepare it, and you don't have to go through the whole thing of cooking. Um, Another option is that you want to make sure that you stay hydrated. You want to drink plenty of water throughout the day as much as possible. Okay. The other thing with regarding to prioritizing your mental health is that you want to make sure that you get plenty of sleep per night. You want to get anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of rest if at all possible. And you want to try to have consistency with regarding to your bedtime. You want to make a routine out of it. You want to you want to turn your cell phones off and your television at least an hour before you go to bed. I can't remember where it was, but I remember Dr. Carla making that statement with regarding to just letting yourself go and just shutting down and turning everything off. You also want to practice some relaxation techniques. Like deep breathing or maybe perhaps meditation. And then finally, if at all possible, if you want to join a caregiver support group so that you're able to share your experience and to know that you're not in this alone, and that you have you're able to process it. And then by joining the caregiver support group, that will give you emotional support, so that you can talk to other individuals who are going through the same situations that you might be in.
That's great. Great advice. And if you're a caregiver or not, these are tips for all of us to make sure our mental and physical health are intact, especially as we navigate change and transition, no matter what kind it is. These tips are for you. So, Ms. Peters, can you add to our tip list?
So one of the things that I found very effective, even in my own life, but a tool that our caregivers like to use, we teach them how to do an action plan. And an action plan is like one of the best tools that we can use in our just from everyday life. An action plan, when you're thinking about making one, you want to make an action plan. It's something you want to do. So if you know that you need to go to the gym, you need to determine when you're going to do it, how long you're going to be gone, what day of the week, and what the confidence level is. And what I found that makes that so effective, it sort of makes you hold yourself accountable. So, you can do things like, I mean, I've heard caregivers say, for 15 minutes, I just want to sit and be quiet. And I'm going to do that on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. For 15 minutes, I'm just going to be still and be quiet. Self care. And for those 15 minutes, to hear caregivers come back and share with us that they've achieved their goal and how rewarding something just that small. But when you're thinking about self care, think about what you want to do. I mean, I've heard them go back from crocheting, things that used to bring them joy. Nope, I can't do it every day. I can't do it when mom or dad is awake. But during these hours when they're asleep, I'm going to use that 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or I'm going to get my brother or sister or someone to come in and sit with my mom or dad while I go get my nails done one day a week. So there are lots of things, but that action plan I find is the best tool to help you hold yourself accountable and to take action to help make change for yourself for self-care, doing something that you want to do.
Yeah, I love that action plan. That I mean that'll help, like I said, all
Yeah,
of us. So
yeah,
whether you're a caregiver or not,
yeah.
action plan to help reduce your stress and to
Mhm.
improve your physical and mental health is something you can do. And then you get your team in. And again, some of our other family members or friends may not be always invested in the same at the same level as we are, But if we get that action plan and spread it out and say, hey, these are things I need from you, can you fill in on these days,
That's
and
right.
spread the care. And I know we don't want to be bothered with people who don't want to help, but we still need their help. So we have to find
Absolutely.
out a way to get them on board that works for everybody. And so sometimes I know that's a part of the family conflict. We don't want to deal with people that aren't as caring as we are. And that's the thing. People care for their loved ones differently. So we can't expect our family members or friends to care for our loved one at the same level, even though they're related on the same level. So these are expectations I think we have to let go of sometimes as we're doing it. So someone is asking for you, Ms. Peters, when does the next Powerful Tools class start for caregivers? Do you know? Do
We're
you
getting
know
ready
the schedule or website?
yeah, so we're getting ready to start up our next session the end of January, and it's going to be held at the Zeta Center on Ricestown Road. Uh, the classes are on Fridays. They run 6 weeks from 9 to 12 with continental breakfast and a snack. And we can't have more than 15 people in the class. And registration is taking place now through the Baltimore City Health Department. Call for care. Caregivers, a program with Miss Linda Davis. But if you call Baltimore City Caregivers Program, she's doing registration now. And this is going to be our fourth cohort of caregivers. And I'm telling you, it's excellent because you can really learn a lot. And I just want to add one other thing. When you were
Mhm.
talking, Dr. Debnam, about family members and asking friends to come in and provide some support for you so that you can take care of your mental health needs, this is the one thing I like to share with caregivers. Everybody can't do everything, but everybody can do something. And that even includes the people who don't live near their parents, who may live in other states. And there are friends who want to provide some help, but you got to let people help you. You know, a lot of times we'll complain about not getting help, and people will offer help. Um, and then if they come to give it to you, you stay. If they're going to bring you some help, leave. Or don't be in there telling them how to do it. No, they're not going to do it the way that you do it, but they're not going to hurt the person. They're there to provide you with some help. So leave, do whatever you said that you're going to do. And that's for family members as well, because I hear that a lot. You know, I want mom washed this way. I want her food prepared this way. I promise you. No, they're not going to do it like you do, but they're going to do it with love. Let them. That's my strongest message to caregivers. Let them. Let them.
Look, I'm on mute. That's good advice. Again, we want the help. We want everybody on board in the ways that they can be on board. And whether that's they pick up the medication, that might be their things, but we have to find a way to get everybody involved at the level that they're comfortable with. Because you hear this, oh, I don't want to see mom like that. I don't want to see uncle like that. Well, neither do the primary caregivers, but again, it's what the person is willing to do. Can they pick up the medicine or drop a meal off every now and then? So they may not sit with the person, but it's one less thing on your to-do list. So that's great. So what are some signs? And I'll start with you, Miss Peters, and then you, Sharon. What are the signs that it's time to move your loved one in, from independent or assisted living, to long term? Sometimes it's progressive, and sometimes they can stay in their home the whole time. But what are some of the signs?
So that's really a very tough decision for a lot of caregivers, especially for those who have committed to caring for their loved ones. But, when your health starts failing, when you can no longer take care of them because you've neglected your own health, um, if they're dangerous themselves and others, if they're falling and you can't get them up, you're having to call the ambulance because they've fallen. You can't get them up. It's not safe to even try. Um, Doing it before it gets to that point. I mean, that is one of the toughest decisions, other than taking the keys from somebody who's driving, that caregivers have to deal with. And and looking to see what resources are available to assist you in that. And I also encourage for those who have like social services support, getting a good case manager, a good social worker can be your best friends, because the biggest challenge, even in doing that transition, is knowing how to navigate the system. It's the system that most people can't get through because they don't know how to. But there are people who can help you. And that's where those um, Baltimore City Health Department, you got the Alzheimer's Association, any disease specific agency, all of them have social workers. They can help you. Ask your primary care provider. I mean, find out what you need in order to make that a smooth transition so that your loved one can be in a safe place where you can go and visit them and have good visit, as opposed to being overwhelmed and upset trying to take care of them at home when it's no longer the safest place for them to stay. And it's a tough decision. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend. And that's what, you know, it's been proven. But initially it's hard, especially when you promise them you're going to keep them. But when you find that your health is in worse condition, and that's the other thing, a lot of caregivers usually pass before the people they're caring for because they've neglected themselves so much and they're not caring for their own like they should. Yeah.
Yeah, that's those some major uh, places and things we need to think about, because a lot of times, like you said, we promise to take care of our family member or friend and till the end, but when it's no longer safe, that is the word right there. When it's no longer safe for you or for them. Sharon, you have any more to add to that?
Yeah, yeah. Safety is the number one priority with regarding to that. Just like Miss Peters said, especially if there are fall risks, that sort of things. The other things are when and it's a difficult decision as to move, your family member to an independent and or assisted living and even a long-term facility. When it becomes too much for you to handle, um, you really have to, and it's a difficult choice, and you have to recognize that, I can't do this. We've had family members come into the nursing home and they'll say, well, we promised mom that we would never put her in a nursing home, and but look, here we are. And we know it was a difficult decision for that family member to have to come and make that decision. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's in the best interest of the loved one. The other thing too is that you have to be able to understand and determine that when the loved one needs more care than you're able to provide. If they're falling and you're constantly having to call 911 to come help pick mom or dad up off the floor, or it just gets to be too much and overwhelmed for you, um, then again, it's a hard decision as you have to decide as to which direction you want to go. The other thing too is that if you have a family member that needs 24-hour supervision, and with regarding to that, you have to work, you have to be able to provide, and if caring for mom or caring for dad, caring for a loved one causes you to have to miss work, then that becomes an issue. So you have to decide as to, again, what's going to be in the best interest of your family member. And then lastly, if they are unable to perform their ADLs, their activities of daily living, you have to again decide that, you know what, mom can't feed herself. She has a hard time swallowing. She can't bathe herself. And I'm unable to do that. I can't put mom in the bathtub. I can't lift mom out of the bathtub. Those type of things. So yeah, it can be a hard decision to make as to determine, where you're going to put mom or your loved one. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, these are some major points. The Facebook one Facebook comment is, we must do what's best for them and for yourself without regrets or feeling guilty. And I know that is sometimes the guilt and the regrets of having to not have the strength to do it, especially if I grew up in an environment where we took care of our, elderly aunts and grandparents. But it was up until we could not take care of them, and it was a lot of different people. It wasn't just one family member. We could all took turns, but having had that experience, you do realize when you can't do it anymore. And another person can identify with being a primary caregiver, uh, and no one else helping, none of the other family members, but they got solace in feeling like God gave them the assignment. So it's how they looked at what they had on their plate, and sometimes that helps us mentally as well. But you still have to know when you need some assistance. But God was her help, so that's great. And um, sometimes some other people found that when they did rely on other family members or friends, they weren't as timely. They didn't take the assignment as serious, and so appointments were missed or things weren't done in a timely fashion. And we know how it is to get these doctor appointments or any of these appointments that we might have to get to. So, what other signs do you have? Some other signs, Miss Peters? Yeah.
Yes, one of the things I wanted to mention, to piggyback off of what you just said, and people not taking the assignments seriously or missing appointments. One of the other things we teach, and you all probably can relate to this, the biggest challenge that we have as caregivers is learning how to communicate with the people that we need help from. And especially when we're addressing family members, spouses, people who you would think would step up to the plate and help. But one of the things that we teach is I messages and you messages. And I'm sharing this because it has definitely changed my life and the way that I even communicate in my own home. Because if you're asking for help from a sibling and you're saying, look, I need, no, you don't help. You don't help take care of mom or dad. So what is that going to do? That person's immediately is going to become defensive and insulted probably. But if you say, I need some help with mom and dad, can you on Tuesday or Wednesday help me with mom or dad between the hours of 6 and 8? The likelihood, if the person can do it, they will. If they can't, they may say, maybe I can't do it on Tuesday, but I can do it on Wednesday. And you can then express, yeah, but it's going to be a very important meeting. And if all possible, can you make it? So learning how to communicate with our loved ones or whoever the care providers are who's going to provide the help is really, really important. And it takes practice because we're just not programmed to think like an I question or a you question. But I promise you all, practice it, especially if it's something you really want done and you're getting some resistance from them. Don't tell the people about what they're not doing. It's going to just upset them. Just tell them what your needs are, what I need, and communicate it in a way that they can receive it. And I think that that is another way to help in this process. And then the other thing I just wanted to share with some of the ways that our caregivers can constructively, deal with some of the guilt that they might have when they have been having to transition their loved ones, to long-term care or assisted living or having to have somebody come in, it's just, you know, apologize, yes, I promised you, mom, that or dad, I was going to be able to take care of you, but I can't do it. Forgive yourself. You made that commitment, but it just can't happen. It's just not healthy for me or you. Um, so forgive yourself. Ask yourself for forgiveness. Ask them to forgive you, and learn from that experience. And then, if all else fails, and a lot of people go here, get some counseling. If you find that this has become too overwhelming for you, and you're finding yourself to be depressed about the fact that that was a transitional decision you had to make, seek counseling, please. A caregiver support group or a mental health therapist. But seek some counseling.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were saying the I and you statements, it made me think about counseling. So, you put yourself in that position where you that the other person won't be defensive. So, as much as possible, but we know again, everybody doesn't have the same relationship with their loved ones, even within the same immediate family. And so they may not want to care for them for their own personal reasons or how they felt they were treated as a child or young adult, or they didn't get the same support, so they're not going to support them now. So these are emotional things that can come into play as caregivers try to get support from other family and friends, not knowing that they've held this long resentment towards mom or dad or their brother or sister. So, given that, okay, we're here, we might have to find a place for mom or dad or have them someone come in. What resources are available, and what that can help people with the financial burden, because that seems that happens sooner than later. It's not something that's far off. It often happens quicker than we thought it would, that we might need some help in this area. So I'll start with you, Sharon, and then we'll go to Miss Peters.
Okay. So, one good financial resources for those individuals who may have had family members that were in the armed forces, the veterans, they have awesome benefits. They have aid and attendance benefits that are available to the veterans, whereby if you are if you the family member was a veteran and you need assistance and to come into the home, you can apply for aid and attendance benefits. I had a neighbor who was a veteran, and they redid his whole bathroom. They put stair lifts up outside of his home so that he can come in and out. They provided him with an aide that came in. They had different aides that came in. The other thing too is that his son lived in the home with him, but they paid the son to stay there with him, whereby he was receiving financial benefits for aid and attendance for assisting with his father. So if you have anybody who are veterans, that's I would definitely encourage you to look into that. There's the other one where is it's called the Community Waiver Option Program, that is available for those individuals who are in assisted living facilities. Um, and so basically what happens is that if you have to send a loved one to an assisted living facility, and just like say they receive SSI, which is I think like around 948 right about now. So what they'll do is they'll take half of that, which would be the individual's contribution of care, and then the waiver program would pay around like 1900, so it would become to like $2400, 2400, which would go to the cost of care. And then the family member would receive the family individual that's in assisted living would receive like around 489, somewhere around there, for their personal needs. So that helps with assisted living, because nowadays the assisted living providers want to get paid as much as the nursing homes. And our question always to them is that, well, you don't provide the, the 24-hour around the clock care with regarding to have bringing physicians in, having rehab in, having a dietitian in, that sort of thing. um, but if you are able to get the community waiver, that would definitely help with regarding to the financial piece. The other financial resource is that if you're able to and you can afford to get long-term care insurance, that will pay for your assisted living and will pay for your a portion of the stay within the nursing home for long-term care. Um, then, depending upon which jurisdiction that you're in, I know the Department of Social Services, they do offer services for individuals with low income residents. So if a family member meets that eligibility requirement, they have a program and it's called IHOS, it's in-home aid services. And what happens is that they can apply for that, and they'll have a CNA come out to the home and provide care and support for that family member so that they're able to stay into the home. So I guess it just depends upon which jurisdiction that you're in. But I am aware that Baltimore City has a lot of programs like that. So I encourage um, anyone to look into that. The other thing too is that what people sometimes get a little leery of, and they're, apprehensive, is you can make an APS, Adult Protective Service report, and it's not a bad thing. It's we're just trying to get the family member the services that they need to assist them with. They may need assistance. I think it Baltimore City probably built somebody another home. They did a roof. They did some did the walls on the side of the house, and I don't know where they got this funding from, but they basically rebuilt this house again. So there are services that are available. So APS is not a bad thing. It's just like you have vulnerable adults out there, and in order to get them what is needed, you can reach out to them. It's not like they're going to take your family member out of the home or anything of that nature. No, that they're there to assist and to help as any way possible.
That's a good point. Someone in the comments did say that the assisted living has to be waiver certified. So it's not every assisted living; it's the ones that take the waiver option. So if you're looking down the list and it doesn't say it takes the waiver, then keep looking, because it is that is a part of the process. And of course, your loved one has to be approved for the waiver program as well. So all of these are processes. They are long processes sometimes, and sometimes you just need the help of uh, like Sharon and Miss Peters to help us get through this. That's why we're having this discussion, because many people get thrown into this and they don't know all the ins and outs. So, Ms. Peters, do you have any additional uh, financial tips for people?
Baltimore City and Baltimore County every year put out a community resource guide. It's free. This is what I call my resource Bible. And inside this here resource book are answers to lots and lots of questions. Um, and in terms of getting some financial support, there are programs like Hopkins Elder Plus PACE program, which is located on the Johns Hopkins Baby Medical Center. And now I'm so excited about the new Eden Bridge um, adult PACE program that's opening up in Montgomery beginning next month. That if you meet the financial eligibility, they will provide comprehensive, all-inclusive care that include a lot of like all the medications, any incontinence products, home health aids if need be. Once they enroll in the program, they can stay from beginning to end of life. So even if their health changed and it's determined that they need to be relocated from their home and placed into an assisted living facility, they've contracted with assisted living facilities that they use that will enable them to still provide the medical care for them, allow them to have access to an adult day center, a social worker, all of the team members that's needed, even in-home aides to provide the care that's needed. And they could come there a couple days a week, interact and socialize with other people at the day center, and take them back home. Medicare and Medicaid eligible people are able to enroll. And so they actually take you through the financial process. They have someone there in their marketing department who will address all the financial needs, help them get all the documents, apply for the medical assistance. They have a medical assistance caseworker, they're on site. So that is an ideal. Um, and we can keep them there from coming in as an independent person living in the community to end of life. So it doesn't matter how their health decline or change, they can stay with us till end of life. And most people do unless family members move them outside the service area that has been designated where they can provide care. Um, and then she also mentioned the long-term care facility, long-term care insurance as another option because you could Medicare, Medicaid, but you could also pay privately to be enrolled in one of these programs. So let's say you have a house or you have some money where you can pay for the private services, maybe not forever, but maybe for a couple of months to spend your money down. And at least if you decide, because it's definitely cheaper going there, still being able to either live in the community independently with support with you and your family, or transitioning you to an assisted living facility, if need be, to end the life. At least if you're spending your money down, it's cheaper than placing them in long-term care. You can then keep your promise to mom or dad. And once your money is spent down, then they can apply for Medicaid for you. What Medicaid will not allow you to do is to transfer that money or give that money to a loved one to make yourself eligible for it. But they will help you through the process. Um, and so the Bible here, Senior Resource Guide, Alzheimer's Association, and different disease specific agencies can also tell you if there's any funding available to help with assistance in the home.
That's a good point. That there are a variety of resources that we haven't tapped into.
Right.
So I like how Sharon started with the VA because people aren't aware of the benefits that if they're a veteran or their loved one, that's definitely a place to look. And all of the counties have a Department of Aging. So look for the county's Department of Aging in your area if you're not in Baltimore City or Baltimore County. And all of them have the same resources. So they all have someone that can help you with these waiver programs, with the forms. So don't feel like, oh, I don't live in those areas. You just have to do your homework and get connected with people. But certainly you can always call Baltimore City or Baltimore County or your area that's closest to you, and they'll redirect you. So don't worry about where you're located. And of course, adult daycare is booming business, and it is very helpful. Whether you have a loved one that is elderly or they may have other challenges. But adult daycare is good because of the social aspect of it. And again, a lot of mobility will take you wherever you need to go. You just have to sign up, put it in your budget if it's $2 or $3, $5 a ride, so that is a part of your routine. These are things that caregivers can sign their loved ones up for so that it won't be, on them to do all of the work, especially if they're the the primary caregiver. So it's really great that some of these things are some some of these some of these things are very important. So we have to continue to do the best that we can for our caregivers. Are there any suggestions that people that can help people navigate the healthcare aspects, decisions that they might have to make? Any so we'll start with you, Sharon, if it's some health changes, and then Miss Peters.
So, with regarding to helping people navigate the healthcare decisions, I always encourage individuals to have a healthcare advance directive. I encourage them you to have two: one healthcare advance directive, and then the other one, a power of attorney. The healthcare advance directive is going to be more prevalent in the nursing home because it's more specific. Um, and so they're going to go basically by that. And then you have your power of attorney. So I always encourage individuals to do that because at the end of the day, when decisions have to be made, it takes a lot of stress off of the individual and the family as a whole. Um, and the other option is what we do is in guardianship. So if we have like individuals who um, either they've had challenges with the family and the family just basically doesn't want to have anything else to do with them, or either we've had individuals come from different jurisdictions, and they ended up down at University of Maryland Hospital or Mercy Hospital or Union Memorial. And because they end up at these hospitals within the city, it becomes their home, their address. And then what happens is that the hospitals apply for guardianship of these individuals. And then that's how we get them. They come into guardianship because they're using the university. It's always, University of Maryland Green Street address as their home address, and they've come from other jurisdictions. And the reason why they come into Baltimore City is because we have our healthcare, our hospital facilities are a little bit more advanced than where they may have come from prior to. So, with regarding to helping people navigate with that, I strongly encourage them to have some sort of an advance directive. And Dr. Carla, if I might, I just want to just go back for a second and piggyback on when you mentioned the adult daycare. Um, they have, if you have to put your family member in adult daycare, they also have physicians now that come out to the daycares, and the family members can have their loved ones be seen by the physicians at the daycare. Also, with some assisted living facilities, you have nurse practitioners that are going out to the assisted living facilities, which can be helpful for individuals. And then one other thing is that back to the nursing home, I I tell people, I know you don't want to put your loved one in the nursing home. However, if you do this for like anywhere from 6 to 8 months, then you'll get the waiver faster. Because if you wait and try to get the waiver while you're out on the community, it could take a couple of years for that.
That's really good. Good. Again, people are saying, how can you get a copy of the guide? I think, can't they get the guide from the, yeah, isn't that sometimes online?
Yes, Dr. Debnam, they can get it
Mhm.
online. And there's a phone number, we can put in the chat. If they live in Baltimore County, they can call Baltimore County Department of Aging and for their senior resource guide, and that number is 410-887-2594. That's for Baltimore County. And for Baltimore City, the number is 410-396-2277. And now is the time to order them because they'll deliver them to
Mm-hmm.
lots of the different agencies throughout Baltimore City and state of Maryland, and they're free. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll deliver them to your agency. Even if you want them to come to your church,
Mm-hmm.
they would deliver them to your church. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always make sure that I give these to my caregivers. Um, most social workers will have a copy of this, in the hospitals. I mean, so they're free, and I would definitely encourage anybody who wants them. And definitely, you can Google it online, and it'll pull it up as well. And you can find it Baltimore City .gov for Baltimore City. You can go right online and pull it up. Community Resource Guide. So the 2025 should be coming out. Um, and so definitely can pull that out. But one of the things I wanted to piggyback on, Ms. Powdrill, is when we were talking about the advanced directives, one of the things that was required when doing enrollment at Hopkins Elder Plus, we had everybody do an advanced directive. Because what we found were you either had family members who were initially involved a whole lot, and as time went on, may have backed up, or participants who came into the program on their own and get sick and wind up going to the hospital, and decisions needed to be made about their health care, and we had nobody to contact. So we started having everybody do an advance directive. Not only do you do one, you make sure that your primary care provider have a copy. And if you've designated somebody, please, number one, ask them, will they be your healthcare agent? Get that permission first. Send them a copy. And if you have more than one child, please hear me. Everybody's children, as Miss Powdrill said, are not involved in Dr. Debnam. They just aren't. But let mom or dad get sick, and sometimes there are big decisions that need to be made about their health, and they ain't seen their parents in years. They're going to be the very ones who want to come in and say, no, I don't want this done to my mom or dad. And that's when everything sort of blows up. But I would always encourage my participants, how I got them on board to do these advanced directives, was saying your voice is going to be heard, whether you can speak for yourself or not, because it's in writing. And this is your voice when you can no longer talk. You've given it to your doctor, it's in your medical file. You've sent a copy to all your children or whoever else is involved. And this is what I want. And I'm going to tell you whether I want to be hooked up to any tubes, whether I want to be resuscitated, or what. Do I want nutrients? I'm going to spell it out. And people like the idea of being empowered. I can still speak for myself when I can't speak for myself because I got it written in paper. So I would definitely encourage everybody on this line, if you have not done it, do so because it is so important. And now we're also encouraging young people to do it as well because we got our young babies, they're dying a lot earlier too. So they need to know if they get done whatever, how do they want to live? Because that's what it's going to determine what your days are going to be like.
That's true. So, as we wrap it up, how do you get a power of attorney? And for MSBC members, we have those guides in the health suite at the church, which is near the chapel. If you don't know where the health suite is, so. But how do you get a power of attorney? We're going to end with that. Who would they contact to get that?
You can either contact an attorney, or you can go to Staples. You can get a power of attorney. Um, but I recommend that you get the Healthcare Advance Directive. And Ms. Peters was talking about, whether you want to be resuscitated, that sort of thing. That the most important thing that you want to have done is you want to get a MOLST form, MOLST form. and then you will specify whether you want to be, be resuscitated, you want to be transferred to a hospital, whether you want a blood transfusion. Because here's the thing: if there are three siblings in the family, and two of them decide, we don't want mom to be resuscitated, and the third sibling lives in California, that third sibling has a right to um have his voice heard, especially if there is no power of attorney. So you want to keep that in mind, to make sure that you have those things. But I suggest, either you contact an attorney, you can do one from Staples, or contact the Department of Aging.
That's great. I appreciate it. These are things that I'm sure we're going to get some questions, and don't be surprised if people see you and stop you and say, "Hey, I need more information about these programs." But this is why we're here. This RC chat is definitely, you know, for you, our viewers. So if you have any questions, any follow up you need from us, you can call the Renaissance Center at 410-409-0025. And you can always check out our website, www.therenaissancecenter.org. And this is a monthly or almost monthly program, and we just ask you to continue to support us and spread the word about what we're doing to empower our communities. Thank you, Ms. Peters and Ms. Powdrell, for joining us tonight.